The next speaker is Martin Kaltenburg from the Semantic Web Company Austria. Martin, I'm about to provide you with presenter role, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Let's see if that works. Just a second. So first you should see my camera, and hopefully then also in a second the screen. So as I only see my screen, can you see the screen and myself at the moment?
Yeah, great.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. So yeah, good afternoon, everybody. This is Martin. I'm co-founder of Semantic Web Company. And yeah, thanks a lot to give me the opportunity to have a short presentation today. And as this format is about enterprise knowledge graphs or knowledge graphs in action, I thought it's also a good approach to give you a little bit to a presentation on a publication that helps you how to build such knowledge graphs. So two colleagues of mine, Andreas and Helmut, you see the names here, they have been writing a book. It's called the Knowledge Graph Cookbook, Recipes That Work, and it gives you a good insight how to cook knowledge graphs. And I think as everybody wants to do this or is already doing it, it's maybe a nice thing to read. So a little bit of details about that. So what was the intention, or let's say the motivation? It came from the question, what is driving the top 10 data analytics technology trends in 2020 and above? And there you see a statement by Gartner that says graphs form this foundation of data fabrics and knowledge graphs and also explainable AI. And these graphs can accelerate machine learning, AI, model performance, and so on and so forth. So what we see these days on so many corners and also more and more in industry is graphs, but also the topic of knowledge graphs that we are speaking about today in this nice Semantics and DBpedia event. And the colleagues picked that up, Andreas and Helmut, and they wrote that book. And this is a little bit the overview, what you can learn inside. So it's all around the principle of semantic artificial intelligence, as we call it. And here we have three principles that play together. One is the FAIR principles that lots of you know, I guess. Then the second one is explainable AI. So how can we avoid black boxes and really make transparent artificial intelligence? And the third one is the human in the loop and how they fit together. So this is one of the big topics in this book. The second one is what are the ingredients, the various roles, the techniques, and the basic recipes that you need to cook a knowledge graph. And the third one is how to get started, because we very often get a question. So this book also is based on really lots of knowledge graph, industrial knowledge graph projects. And very often the question pops up, how can we start? What's the starting point with a knowledge graph? So that's also part of the book. And then what is a data catalog? What is a semantic data fabric? Maybe you have heard about that term. We hear that also more and more often. And what are future knowledge technologies that we can use and how that fits together. And I took, because the book is around 250 pages, I took two main findings that I would like to show you a little bit. But these are just two of several of them, just to give you a little bit of a flavor what is inside. So the one thing is the knowledge graph lifecycle that we have been discussing here and that you can read about in this publication. And we think it's very important that there are three main areas or three life cycles that are put together. You can see it here in the slides. The one is the expert loops on the left-hand side. Here you have knowledge experts, the subject matter experts. So really the people that know about the domain, that take care about inventory, extraction, authorship, cleaning, and so on. The second on the green one in the right bottom, it's about automation loop, or we call it automation loop. This is really a playing together between data engineers and machine learning operators, so ML ops as they're called these days. And the third one is the user loop. So we also think, as we always say, it's very important if you create a knowledge graph and you maintain a knowledge graph that you have these three cycles, and don't forget the user, don't forget the machines. So it's a mixture of them. And here we have a little bit of a summary. So it's very important that a knowledge graph is involving several stakeholders. It's not a one man shower exercise usually. When you develop it, it is an exercise that should be iteratively and agile. It's not a linear thing. You have to react on a dynamic environment in your data and your organization. It's important to involve humans and machines and not only one part of this. And then we see these three loops, and here, yeah, bullet point number 4 says the knowledge graph is constantly developed, and it brings these three loops together and these three kinds or types of stakeholders. And finally, you have to find the balance between these three most important perspectives, like the knowledge domain, the linking of the data, and the enriching it then automatically with context. So here we are also in linked data. So one of these things I would like to point out today is the knowledge graph lifecycle that should be taken into account. And the second one, and that's a very important one, is that we see knowledge graphs as an infrastructure. So in an organization, it's really something like an infrastructure layer that you have for your data management, your metadata management. And then you can put on top a lot of interesting applications, AI applications, non-AI applications, however. And here also, I think this is a very good connex to DBpedia, because DBpedia is also a kind, I mean, it's a knowledge graph, and it's a kind of an infrastructure that we need to maintain and that we have to take care of, because so many different organizations and users are using it. And so here also a knowledge graph as DBpedia is important as a public knowledge graph, but also inside of your organization, we see the knowledge graph as an infrastructure. So already coming to an end, what is inside of these knowledge graph cookbook? So you see it's the first edition from April. You can, and I guess you will receive the slides, we will share it afterwards. You can download just a free PDF following this link. There's a Kindle edition, there's even a paperback that you can order. As I said before, it's based on industry experience of our colleagues. It has around 250 pages, 49 infographics, and a lot of references. And finally, as you see my face in the video, I will show you the faces of the two authors that has been writing that book. So you see on the left-hand side, my colleague Andreas, and you see Helmut on the right-hand side, both two people of the management board of Semantic Web Company. And we're very happy to get feedback. So there's also in the link then a place for discussion if you would like to discuss with us. And just feel free to use it, and hopefully it helps you to build your knowledge graph or to shape your knowledge graph project whatsoever. Thank you very much for listening. Milan, any questions?
Thank you, Martin. Very nice. Time for questions.
Otherwise,
I
feel
see
free.
no questions in the chat.
No problem.
There's
Get the book
Diego
and then get in
typing
touch
one.
with us.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Let's wait a few seconds for Diego. I think he's typing a question. Let's see. Yeah, he's asking, how do you plan to include the humans in the cycle? Active learning, online learning?
Yeah, in a second step, I think it's active learning, but in the first step is also modeling. So, and it's also really taking into account the reaction, the feedback of the user, and the usage of the data and the knowledge graph.
Yeah. There are a few other people typing questions. Let's see. Sebastian is asking, what is Agile about it specifically?
Yeah, it's that you don't just do a knowledge graph once and then you just put it aside. We have seen that also in organizations. But I mean, the world is dynamic, right? We see that these days more than we did before. So a knowledge graph is something that needs to be maintained. And the part of the agile work here is that you really take into account changes. It depends on what your knowledge graph is about the world, about the environment, about your products, about your organization, and so on and so forth. And this is more or less the agile part that we speak about. So, I mean, DBpedia, or let's say the basis Wikipedia, is also an agile system. It's not done once and then used forever.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe we have time for one more question, and then we we can copy the chat and paste in the on the Slack channel where you can answer those. So the last question would be, what are the interaction points between machine learning and KGs?
Yes. Good question that is not so easy to answer, but in principle, I mean, a knowledge graph is something, as we said, that is agile, so you can use it over time. So I think there are two important things. The one is in the knowledge graph development itself. Sorry. I mean, the graph can learn over time, so you can use machine learning algorithms to analyze data over time, structured, unstructured data, and thereby enrich more and more your knowledge graph. The second thing that we have seen and that we're also doing by the touch point is that we use a knowledge graph for machine learning, for the training of machine learning algorithms. So we see that even a good knowledge graph with a high quality can help you, that you need less data, training data for machine learning. Happy to discuss that in more detail because I think time is running. But that's the two parts. So the one is the knowledge graph itself, can use it to enrich it, to make it bigger, to make it more agile. And the second thing is using the knowledge graph itself for training of machine learning algorithms. Hope that answers the question.